My wife told me I couldn't tag along to her college reunion because spouses weren't allowed, but then her friends sent me pictures of her hanging out with her ex the whole time. About 6 weeks ago, Anna, my wife of 7 years, brought up that her 10-year college reunion was coming up in Colorado. She casually asked if I wanted to come along, saying it would be a laid-back weekend where most people were bringing their partners. I was all in. I'd never been to Colorado before, and I figured it'd be a good chance to meet some of the folks she'd spent those 4 college years with. Anna seemed genuinely excited about the trip. She kept bringing up hiking trails we could check out and restaurants she wanted us to try together. At one point, she even suggested we stay a couple extra days to turn it into a mini vacation. We booked our flights together, and I made sure to take time off work. I even picked up a new pair of hiking boots and a jacket since I figured the mountain weather might be a little unpredictable. At night, we'd sit down together and scroll through her old college photos. She'd point out the friends she was looking forward to seeing. There was Benjamin, who I remembered from our wedding. He came with his wife, Olivia. Olivia had actually helped Anna land her first job. Then there was Raymond, the guy behind some annual charity run Anna always talked about participating in. But one name that never came up? Alexander, her ex-boyfriend from college. I knew from past conversations that he had been a major part of her life back then. They dated for almost 3 years before breaking up in their senior year. Then, just about 10 days before we were set to leave, Anna came to me looking a little bummed. She said the reunion planners had made a last-minute decision to ban spouses because the venue was too small. She apologized and said she wished things hadn't changed. I told her not to worry, I'd just stay back and knock out some home projects over the weekend. Still, it struck me as a little odd how she kept sidestepping questions about the new plan. When I asked which other spouses were being left out, she vaguely tossed out that Benjamin's wife wasn't coming either, and then quickly changed the subject to some issue at work. The night before her flight, she was packing while I watched TV in the bedroom. What caught my eye was how much attention she was putting into what she was bringing. For a 4-day trip, she packed way more clothes than usual, including some of her nicest dresses, even one that was still brand new and hadn't been worn yet. I commented on it, and she said she just wanted to look good in photos since everyone would be seeing each other for the first time in years and naturally comparing how people had aged. She also brought more makeup than I'd ever seen her pack before and spent extra time organizing her toiletries. Then the next day after she had flown out, I got a text from Benjamin, the same guy from the wedding. He said he thought I should know that Anna had been spending a lot of time with her ex-boyfriend, Alexander. Benjamin mentioned he'd seen the two of them go into Alexander's cabin together and stay in there for over an hour while everyone else was out on a group hike. According to him, Anna had told the others that I couldn't come because I was stuck working on some big project. Benjamin even included a photo of the reunion schedule, and it didn't mention any rules about not bringing partners. I just sat there staring at that message for what felt like an hour. Nothing had seemed wrong between Anna and me. In fact, we'd been talking about trying for a baby next year. We had just finished remodeling the kitchen together, and our next plan was to tackle the bathrooms. We'd even started looking at bigger houses in family-friendly neighborhoods with decent schools. I'd never once had a reason to doubt her. That evening, I gave her a call just to check in. She sounded cheerful, said the reunion was going great. She told me about a group hike and a barbecue they had. I casually asked how the venue was and whether it made sense to have skipped bringing spouses. She quickly repeated the line about limited space at the lodge being the issue. Then I asked, sort of offhand, if Alexander had shown up. There was a short pause, and then she told me he wasn't there, that he was living in Europe now and couldn't make it. After we hung up, I logged into our phone account and checked the recent call history. There were a bunch of calls to a number I didn't recognize, and they'd been getting more frequent as the reunion got closer. The latest one was the day before she left, and it had lasted 47 minutes. I copied the number and texted it to Benjamin, asking if he knew who it belonged to. He wrote back pretty quickly and confirmed it was Alexander's. Then he added that Alexander had moved back from London 6 months ago after getting divorced. I grabbed a bag and drove straight to my sister's place. She's a family lawyer, and I knew I needed some advice. I showed her everything: Benjamin's text, the reunion schedule, the call logs, and filled her in on what had happened. She told me not to jump to conclusions and that it was better to wait and hear Anna out. She pointed out that just because there were calls, it didn't mean something inappropriate had happened. When I mentioned Anna lied about Alexander's whereabouts and made up that excuse about my work, she admitted it didn't look good, but still reminded me that 7 years of marriage shouldn't be thrown out over a few sketchy days. She advised me to wait and talk things through before making any rash decisions. I ended up staying on her couch for the next 3 nights. The whole time, Anna didn't call me again, not once. Which felt off for a 4-day trip. She sent a couple of generic texts and a few photos of group events, but nothing personal. In all the pictures, it was always her in a big crowd, never alone, never one-on-one with anyone. I decided to check social media and found a bunch of reunion posts from different people. And in 3 of the photos, I spotted Anna and Alexander in the background, standing pretty close together. In one of them, he had his hand on the small of her back. In one photo, they were off to the side from everyone else, locked in what looked like a deep, private conversation. Once it was time for Anna to come home, I went back to her house, ready to confront her. Before she got there, I laid everything out, printed phone logs, screenshots of the photos I'd found online, and a copy of the reunion schedule clearly showing there were no restrictions on bringing spouses. I spread it all out on the kitchen table and sat there waiting. When Anna walked in and saw me sitting there, her cheerful expression dropped instantly. Her face went from confused to tense real quick as she took in the papers laid out in front of me. When we started talking, she eventually admitted that Alexander had been at the reunion after all. But she swore nothing happened between them, that they were just old friends catching up. When I pushed her on why she'd lied, she finally said the reunion didn't actually ban spouses. She just thought it might be uncomfortable with Alexander being there and figured it'd be simpler to go alone. I brought up the phone call, 47 minutes long, the one she had with Alexander the day before she left. Instead of explaining, she turned it on me, calling it invasive that I checked the phone records. She claimed Alexander was just nervous about the reunion and wanted to know who else would be attending after his divorce. But I wasn't buying it. That wasn't a one-off call, they talked 12 times over 3 weeks. That's not catching up. That's reconnecting. When I told her I'd spoken with my sister about divorce, Anna broke down. She started pleading, insisting nothing romantic had happened. According to her, they only went to his cabin to grab something from his car, and Benjamin must have missed them coming back out because he'd already left with the hiking group. She said Alexander was going through a rough time and she was just trying to be supportive. She even mentioned that she'd picked up the tab for most of his meals because he was between jobs. Then I showed her one of the social media photos. Alexander's hand was resting on the small of her back. She brushed it off like it was just a crowded group shot. But in the photo, there was clearly space around them. They weren't squeezed together. That touch wasn't accidental. I told her I'd be spending the night at my sister's because I needed space to figure out what I was feeling. As I packed my overnight bag, Anna followed me from room to room, her voice getting more frantic by the minute. She kept saying I was blowing everything out of proportion, that I was ready to throw away 7 years of marriage over a few texts and some innocent photos. She brought up our plans to start a family, the house we'd been considering buying, all of it. As I zipped my bag shut, she stood in the doorway, blocking me from leaving. She begged me to stay and talk things out. I just stood there quietly until she finally stepped aside. I walked out without saying another word. That night, she called me 27 times. Left 14 voicemails. I didn't listen to most of them. The messages started off apologetic, then turned defensive, then back to tearful apologies again. Over the next few days, she kept texting, sometimes explaining, sometimes accusing me of being unfair, saying I was destroying everything over a misunderstanding. My sister agreed to hold off on any legal action while I figured out what I wanted. But honestly, I still felt completely lost. 7 years together, and I never saw this coming. My head felt like it was spinning nonstop. Some of my friends told me to at least hear her out completely, saying that marriages have survived worse. Others said the lies alone were enough proof of who she really was. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just kept asking myself how we even got here. It's been 2 weeks now since I found out the truth about Anna. After long talks with my sister and a lot of soul-searching, I've made the decision to move forward with a divorce. As painful as it is, I realized that trust, once it's gone, is almost impossible to rebuild. At least for me. I reached out to Benjamin again and asked if he'd be willing to talk. He agreed to meet near his office. When we sat down, he showed me more photos from the reunion. In every group event, Anna and Alexander were side by side, every meal, every activity. He even showed me a picture from the first night's dinner. They had assigned seating in alphabetical order, but Anna had switched her name card so she could sit next to Alexander instead of in her assigned spot. Benjamin said he didn't want to get involved originally. But when he saw Anna and Alexander disappear during the hike, he felt like something wasn't right. His wife had picked up on it too and was actually the one who pushed him to reach out to me. He confirmed what I was already starting to believe, that Anna and Alexander were inseparable the whole weekend. They kept drifting away from the main group, sharing inside jokes, sitting close at every meal. One classmate even commented that it felt like they'd picked up right where they left off in college. As for the cabin incident, Benjamin laid out a timeline that didn't match what Anna had told me. The hike was supposed to last around 90 minutes through a nearby national park. About 15 minutes in, Anna and Alexander turned back, saying they forgot something at the cabins and would catch up. But they never showed up again, not during the hike, not for the lunch afterward. They finally came back about half an hour after everyone else had already finished eating. Alexander had made some offhand joke about getting lost on the trail, but according to Benjamin, it made a lot of people uncomfortable considering how obvious their absence had been. When I asked why he decided to come forward, Benjamin told me something that stuck with me. He said he and his wife had gone through something similar years ago, infidelity, but what saved them was getting everything out in the open right away. According to him, secrets destroy marriages faster than mistakes do. He just felt I deserved to know the truth. I met up with Anna at a small coffee shop to tell her my decision face to face. She'd gotten there before me and had already ordered my usual drink, like she used to when things were good between us. She also brought a folder packed with stuffed photos from the reunion, mostly group shots, where she tried to point out that Alexander was just one person among many, that nothing out of line had happened. But those photos only captured the scheduled events, the barbecues, the group hikes, the dinners. None of them showed the in-between moments, the quiet ones when, according to Benjamin, she and Alexander kept slipping away from the group. She'd also printed out some emails from the reunion organizers, mostly logistical stuff. None of them said anything about a no spouses rule, which just confirmed what I already knew. Then she started questioning me. Why would I throw away 7 years of marriage over what Benjamin claimed? She even accused him of being jealous of her friendships, bringing up how he'd acted at our wedding as some kind of proof. But I stopped her right there. This wasn't just about Benjamin. This was about her lying to me straight to my face, just to make sure I wouldn't be around when her ex showed up. That kind of deception doesn't come from nowhere. It's not just a mistake, it's a choice, and one that cracked the foundation of our relationship. She admitted she messed up in how she handled it, but doubled down on the idea that nothing inappropriate happened with Alexander. No lines were crossed, she said. Then she brought up counseling. She told me she'd already booked a preliminary appointment for the following week. When I told her I wasn't interested, her frustration started showing. She flipped through her folder like it was some legal defense file, trying to prove her innocence with carefully selected photos and messages. Then she started listing names, people from the reunion I'd never even met, saying I should talk to them if I really wanted the truth. The next day, I started apartment hunting. I found a small place not far from where I work. It wasn't anything special, but it was mine. I signed a 6-month lease and paid the deposit and first month's rent out of my personal account, not the joint one. When I told Anna I'd be moving out, she called her parents. That same evening, they showed up at our house. Her dad tried reasoning with me, talking about how all marriages go through rough patches. Her mom was crying and begged me to reconsider, pushing counseling like it was some magic fix. Her father even brought up his own mistakes from early in their marriage, stuff her mom had forgiven, and tried to draw a comparison. That weekend, while Anna was staying at her parents', I moved most of my stuff into the new apartment. 2 buddies helped me carry the bigger items. I left a note back at the house explaining what I'd taken and what I'd come back for later. Pretty soon after that, Anna started telling our mutual friends her version of everything. According to her, Benjamin was just stirring up trouble and I'd blown a bunch of harmless interactions way out of proportion. She told people I refused to give her a fair chance to explain. Meanwhile, my sister filed the divorce paperwork, citing irreconcilable differences. Anna sent me a message saying she still hoped I'd change my mind before things went too far. When I didn't respond, she emailed me a list of local marriage counselors. She even included links and notes about their qualifications, pointing out one who specialized in helping couples rebuild trust. I didn't click on any of them. Does this get easier? I honestly don't know anymore. I feel like I'm walking through fog every day. I don't even recognize my life right now. It's been a month since that last update. The divorce is moving ahead. At first, Anna tried to contest it. She argued that irreconcilable differences didn't apply to our situation. But my sister explained that our state allows no-fault divorce, and Anna's objection wasn't going to stop anything. It was just a delay tactic. Anna filed a long, emotional response to the petition. She insisted that counseling should be mandatory before we gave up. said the marriage was still salvageable. Since then, her messages have been all over the place. Some are apologetic, full of regret. Others are angry, blaming me for giving up. She even showed up at my apartment twice. The first time, she brought flowers and tried to talk. The second time, she came with the divorce papers covered in handwritten notes, arguing against different terms, margins filled with comments. She refused to leave until I spoke with her, and things got tense out in the hallway. My neighbor ended up stepping in, helping me get back inside. After that, I asked the building manager to make sure she wasn't allowed in again without my permission. She also started messaging my sister, trying to convince her to back out of representing me. Anna sent her several emails claiming I was acting irrationally, that deep down I didn't really want this divorce. My sister forwarded those to me without saying a word. I didn't respond. Anna also started reaching out to our mutual friends, trying to get them to convince me to give her a chance. A couple of them reached out, clearly having heard her side of things. They expressed concern about how quickly things were moving and suggested I take more time. I didn't argue with them. I just thanked them and moved on. Then last week, I ran into Jamie, one of Alexander's old college buddies. We bumped into each other at the grocery store. He'd been at our wedding, so he recognized me right away. We made some small talk, and then I brought up what had happened between Anna and Alexander at the reunion. He looked genuinely surprised and said, "Wait, Anna told Alexander your marriage was basically over." I was stunned. Dennis went on to say that Alexander had told him Anna was all over him during the reunion. She told Alexander we were having serious problems, and that divorce was already on the table. Then Dennis dropped the bomb. He said Alexander told him they slept together the last night of the trip. I asked him if he was sure. Dennis nodded. He said Alexander admitted it outright and seemed kind of conflicted because he'd met me at the wedding and knew who I was. But, according to Jamie, Anna kept insisting our marriage was done anyway, and that it didn't really count. Alexander even showed Dennis some of the texts Anna sent during the trip. Messages that were clearly romantic. Dennis apologized for being the one to tell me. He said he figured I deserved to know the truth. I told him thank you, left my cart right there in the aisle and walked out. He told me she was the one who'd kicked things off between them at the reunion. Said she kept looking for him during the different events and even suggested they sneak away to catch up alone. When I told him Anna and I had actually been talking about having a baby the next year and that, as far as I knew, there weren't any real issues between us, Alexander sounded genuinely caught off guard. He apologized for his role in everything and admitted he probably should have kept his distance, especially knowing she was married. After we hung up, I passed his contact info along to my sister. She once again advised me not to confront Anna head-on about the contradictions in their stories. Her thinking was that it'd be better to let the legal stuff play out without adding more emotional chaos into the mix. I ended up ignoring Anna's email where she tried to defend herself. Just 2 days after that, out of the blue, she agreed to the divorce terms my lawyer had put on the table, including how we'd split everything. The quick turnaround shocked me, especially after weeks of her pushing back and resisting the divorce. It made me wonder what had changed so suddenly. My sister thought maybe Anna had figured out that I'd talked to Alexander and decided it was smarter to just accept the terms rather than risk more of the truth coming out in court. She also came clean about deleting a bunch of texts between her and Alexander from before the reunion. She admitted they'd been chatting off and on, sometimes slipping into reminiscing about their old relationship, stuff she knew would sting if I ever saw it. As for the cabin situation, she claimed it was innocent. According to her, they just went to his car to grab something and ended up talking way longer than they meant to, mostly about his recent divorce and how he felt like he'd screwed up his life. I asked her why she was telling me all this now. She said that since the divorce was happening no matter what, she at least owed me the truth. She admitted she'd made some really bad choices and was now facing the consequences, but still insisted she hadn't cheated, at least not in the way people usually think of it. She denied ever having doubts about our marriage before the reunion too, which went directly against what Alexander had told me. She figured maybe he'd misunderstood her, saying she was nervous about becoming a parent. Before she left, she handed me an envelope. Inside were tickets to a concert for one of our favorite bands, said she'd bought them before the reunion, planning to surprise me for our anniversary. She didn't expect me to go with her, but thought I might still want them. I took the envelope but didn't say anything. Not long after she left, I got a text from Alexander. Apparently, Anna had asked him to reach out. He doubled down on the story that they never slept together, just kissed. He admitted that when he was drunk, he told Dennis something happened between them, but now said that was an exaggeration. He apologized again and said he wouldn't be contacting either of us anymore. At first, I hesitated. Their stories finally lined up, which gave me pause. But then I remembered all the times their stories had changed before. Even if it had been just a kiss, Anna had lied to me so she could spend time with an ex. She'd hidden things, manipulated the situation, and only came clean in bits when she had no other choice. Whether it was just a kiss or something more, it was still a huge betrayal. The trust was already gone. And the way their stories kept evolving only made this new version seem just as shaky as the rest. The next day, Benjamin, the friend who first clued me in, sent me screenshots of a text argument he'd had with Anna. She was furious, blaming him for wrecking her marriage by texting me. She called him a backstabber and said he'd misunderstood what he saw. But Benjamin stood firm and said everything he told me was the truth. He even mentioned that a few other people at the reunion had noticed Anna and Alexander acting a little too close, but didn't want to get involved. Benjamin told me about some things I hadn't heard before, like how Anna and Alexander had disappeared from a group bonfire for over an hour. In her texts to him, Anna admitted they had talked about their past during the reunion and shared old memories. She accused Benjamin of jumping to conclusions about the cabin incident, but she never actually denied that she and Alexander were alone together longer than she originally let on. She also mentioned their shared inside jokes and what she called harmless flirting, stuff she said others were blowing out of proportion. But to me, every new detail just confirmed that I'd made the right call. Even the kiss, which now felt like a soft landing for the truth, seemed like damage control after Dennis exposed what happened. It was all part of the same pattern: hide the truth, admit just enough to look honest, and hope that's where the questions stop. By then, I was focused on moving forward. I bought actual furniture for my new place, replacing the hand-me-downs I'd brought from the house. My sister introduced me to a buddy of her husband's who needed help renovating his basement, so I've been working on that during evenings and weekends. It's kept my hands and mind busy. Anna doesn't reach out much anymore. Mutual friends have told me she's been telling people she messed up, but that I ended the marriage because I refused to forgive her. Some folks believe her, some don't. I've stopped trying to explain myself. The people who really know me don't need convincing. And the ones who don't? They're not part of the life I'm building now anyway. The divorce was supposed to be finalized soon. I was counting the days. Then, just 2 days before everything would be official, I got an email from Anna. Subject line: the whole truth. At first, I hovered over the delete button. But curiosity got the better of me. In that email, she finally admitted that she and Alexander had slept together at the reunion. Not just once, twice. She said the reason she fought the divorce so hard at the beginning was because she couldn't bring herself to admit the full truth, not even to herself. She told me Alexander had reached out to her a month before the reunion and they'd been messaging regularly. When she found out he'd be there, she made up the excuse about spouses not being invited. She gave me details I hadn't known. Turns out their first night together was planned in advance. After the welcome dinner, she met him at his cabin, telling everyone else she had a work call. The second time was after the farewell dinner, when most people were caught up in the group activities. She said she regretted everything, especially the way she twisted things to make me seem like the unreasonable one for wanting out. She admitted to carefully controlling the narrative, offering up half-truths only when she got caught. She ended the email by saying she wasn't asking for forgiveness. She just didn't want to keep lying, not to me and not to herself. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my sister. She called me immediately to ask if I was okay. I told my sister I was doing okay. Truth is, I'd pretty much suspected it all along. When she asked if I wanted to use Anna's final admission in the divorce process, I said no. The terms were already fair, and I just wanted everything wrapped up and behind me. Sure, I filed the email away with the rest of the paperwork, but I didn't see any point in using it to drag things out or hurt her any more than she'd already done to herself. I never replied to Anna's email. There wasn't anything left to say. The day after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from Anna's sister. We'd always gotten along during family events, and she sounded pretty upset. She told me she'd heard about Anna's confession and wanted to apologize for how their family had acted toward me through all of this. Apparently, Anna had finally come clean to their parents, and they were horrified about how they'd treated me, especially how hard they'd pushed for reconciliation when they didn't know the full story. I told her I didn't blame them. After all, they were just trying to support their daughter. That's what family does. She made it clear, though, that they didn't hold me responsible for how things ended. Her dad in particular regretted some of the things he'd said to me during that intervention attempt. 2 days after that, I got another email from Anna. She asked to meet up one last time, said she'd found a few of my things while finishing packing up the house. Since the house was being sold as part of the settlement, I agreed to meet her. She showed up late and handed me a small cardboard box. Inside was my grandfather's old watch, the one that had been missing for months. Alongside it were a few childhood photos of mine that had ended up mixed in with hers. I remembered accusing her of losing the watch during a cleaning spree a while back. She admitted she'd actually hidden it during an argument and then forgot about it until she found it again while packing. There was this long, awkward pause after that. Then she thanked me for not using her final confession against her in the divorce. I just told her it wouldn't have done either of us any good. She looked different, her hair was cut short and she seemed thinner than the last time I'd seen her. She said she was still in therapy, trying to figure out her behavior and how she ended up making the choices she did. We finished our coffees mostly in silence. As we were walking out, she asked if I'd be open to staying in touch, maybe as friends down the line. I told her, as gently as I could, that I thought a clean break was the healthiest thing for both of us. She nodded and didn't push it. So, yeah, that was the end of it.